guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be doing another full brand review. In case you have missed the last few, I have a playlist for them, which I will link above for you guys. But essentially the reason I started doing this series of full brand reviews, as most of you already know, I did used to work at Sephora, and I feel like with the brands at least that we carried in my store, I've had a lot of experience working with all of the products from these brands. So for that reason, I feel really comfortable giving an entire brand review, even for the products maybe that I don't personally own because I have at least used them on clients. But today's full brand review, we're going to be talking about Becca. Now, I do own quite a lot of the products from Becca's line, but as you guys know, most of my makeup is packed up, so I will be inserting photos for pretty much everything today as we talk about it. So with these full brand reviews, what I like to do is first talk about my absolute favorite products, then I'm going to talk about the products that I do not like, and then everything I don't mention as far as specific products just means that it kind of falls in the middle, and then at the end we'll talk about the brand as a whole and the good and the bad for the brand. I feel like Becca used to be a very underhyped brand, but ever since they did a collaboration with Jaclyn Hill on the whole Champagne Pop and then what became the Champagne Pop collection, they have gotten a lot of hype now, and they're very, very hyped up specifically for their highlighters. Their Shimmering Skin Perfectors is the name that they call them. I own pretty much every shade of the Shimmering Skin Perfector pressed version. They also have a Skin Perfector cream, and they have like the liquid one as well. I personally really, really like the Skin Perfector pressed version because it is a powder version, and I'm more of a powder person when it comes to highlighters and face products. But the reason they are so hyped up is because they are actually very, very good. They're amazing quality. The price is a little high. They are $38 a piece, but you get a ton of product in there, so it is gonna last you a very, very long time. Kind of had to dig for it, but I knew I had access to one. So I have this one here, which is actually Champagne Pop. So I did want to show you guys because they are so beautiful. I'm sure you guys have seen these before, but they are so very creamy and smooth, but they blend into the skin beautifully, and I just feel like the formula on these is really amazing. Now, there are a lot of highlighters that have come on the market now more recently that are very good quality as well, but I feel like this was like the first really great highlighter that I tried personally, and I think that they are fantastic quality. They also have a great shade selection. Even if you are the most fair complexion, they have something for you. And for deeper complexions, they have a good range of colors for highlights. They're one of the only brands I feel like I could confidently say that with. Most brands, when it comes to highlighters, they have like a golden undertone highlighter, and then they might have a little bit more of a pink undertone highlighter, and then that's it. But they don't really cater to the very fair, and they don't really cater to the more deeper skin tone. So I feel like a lot of brands could definitely take notes from Becca when it comes to their highlighter color selection, and they're always adding new ones, which I think is really great because not everybody's skin tone is the same, and there is no one highlighter. There is no universal shade for a highlighter. I think it's awesome that they have such a great shade selection when it comes to highlighters. So the Shimmering Skin Perfectors, these are one of my absolute favorite products from Becca, and I feel like most people, when they're testing out Becca as a brand, this is the first thing they try, is one of the skin perfectors, and it might even be Champagne Pop because Champagne Pop was so popular when Jaclyn Hill first launched it. One of my other absolute favorite products from the brand is this under eye corrector. This is so nice. The nice thing about this under eye corrector is that you need the tiniest amount. So this is gonna last me forever, but you only need a little bit, and really just where you have the most darkness. You don't need to spread it all over your under eye. You can just use it like in the corners. If, like for me, I just tend to get darkness right here in the first like 1/3 underneath my eye, so I just put it there. I only use a tiny bit, and it really does brighten up underneath the eye. So this is one of my favorite products from them as well. I also really love their primers. I do have several of them. The first one that is probably my favorite one is their Backlight Priming Filter. This one is so nice. It was the first one I tried from their line, and I definitely fell in love with it. It is it does add a little bit of a glow to the skin, but even for me where in the summer I do get very oily and I don't like to have much shine, it is very subtle in my opinion. So of course I do always put a full coverage foundation over the top of it. So depending on what coverage you put, it's gonna determine how much of that, you know, shimmer kind of shows through. It's not really shimmery, but it's more of a sheen. For me though, I think it is a really, really nice primer. I love it. I've gone through 2 full sizes of that one. I do also have the First Light primer, which I actually do really like that one as well. If you want something that's just slightly even more subtle than the Backlight primer, I would recommend this one. It's really nice. It does have kind of a lemon scent to it though, which was a little bit on the strong side. So if you have an aversion to scents, I would keep that in mind. And then I do also have the Velvet Blurring primer, which I wanted to mention as long as I'm talking about the primers from Becca, because I'm still kind of trying to figure this one out, to be honest with you guys. So I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I love it or if I hate it. I'm just kind of like, sometimes I really like it, sometimes I really dislike it. It really depends on what products you pair it with. Because it is a smoothing primer, it does have a tendency to roll up on me. So I'm still kind of trying to figure out what combination works best with this primer. So I don't really want to say it's a bad primer yet, and I don't want to say go get it either. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. And right now it is packed up, so I haven't had the chance to really play with it for a little bit. But once I get all settled in, I'm sure I'll be testing it out a little bit more. And then their last primer that I wanted to mention is their matte primer, their Ever Matte primer. This is a great mattifying primer. It was one of the top 2 that I would recommend to clients who had very oily skin. Now, if you don't have very oily skin, you do not want to use this primer. Well, I mean, if you actually do have a very like oily T-zone, like if your combo and your T-zone is very oily, then you might want to try it. Basically, this particular primer is going to be really great for somebody whose skin cannot keep foundation on because it's so oily, the foundation just like slides right off your face. So if you find that you are losing foundation in your T-zone, or if you're really, really oily everywhere on your face and you just feel like your foundation just like melts off your face every time you sweat, then I would try a mattifying primer, and this is one of my favorites. I really also like the one from Makeup Forever, but this one, I feel like they're pretty much equal as far as performance, and they have a similar feel to them. So if you've ever tried the one from Makeup Forever, that's exactly what you're gonna get from this Becca one as well. It's gonna give you a very, it's gonna leave your skin with that like grippy, sticky feeling, which is what you need if your skin is very oily, because otherwise the oil is just gonna make that foundation like a slip and slide come right off your face. But if you have that very sticky underneath, almost feels kind of like glue, what's gonna happen when your skin starts to get oily, the foundation has something to grab onto and stick to, so it's more likely to stay in place. Now, like I said, unless you have very oily skin, you're not gonna want that kind of texture on your face. It will enhance texture, and it will feel too heavy and thick for you if your skin isn't oily. But it's a lifesaver if you have very oily skin. So I did want to mention that in a favorites. I don't personally need this primer because I don't have skin that's oily enough. I don't need anything that's quite as strong as this, but I think it is really good for clients who need it. There is, you know, a clientele who is oily and needs something like this. All right, moving on from the primers, the other things that really stand out to me from Becca are definitely their blushes. They have amazing blushes. I love their blush formula. I think I have 3 blushes from them, and I just love them. I would love to have more colors from them. Something also about their blushes that I think is really great is their shade selection, and this kind of goes for the brand as a whole. All of their products, they have a great shade selection. So they have blushes that are a little less pigmented, that work great, that work better on, you know, light to fair skin tones. And then they have those very intense pigmentation blushes that are great for deeper skin tones. If you have a deeper skin tone, you can't use a lightly pigmented blush. I mean, you're gonna have to apply so much of that blush to even see any of it. But with the Becca blushes, they have some very intensely pigmented blushes that are gorgeous on deep skin tones. So I love that about Becca. I think they really keep in mind the whole spectrum of shades for their clients, and they cater to all shades with their complexion products as well as their blushes and highlights and everything like that. So I think that is a really awesome thing as well, but their blushes are so good. If you have not tried their blushes, I do highly recommend checking those out. And then the last product that I wanted to mention as far as favorites go is going to be their bronzers. I love their bronzers. It's called the Sunlit bronzer, I believe. Let me double check here. Yeah, it's called the Sunlit bronzer. I only own one shade of this as well. I think it's Capri Coast is the one that I own. Again, it's packed up, so I'll insert a photo here for you guys, but these bronzers are really nice. Again, they have a great shade selection. They have a little bit of a sheen to them, but they are not glittery. So they have a very light glow to them, but it's very natural and very, I think it's beautiful. I love the way that it looks on the skin, and they're really easy to kind of build up the pigmentation or blend out and give you like a very natural bronzy look. So I just think they're a really good formula, something I would definitely recommend checking out. All right, now I want to real quick talk about some of my least favorite products from this brand. I don't have a whole lot here. I feel like it's kind of a smaller brand. They mostly focus on complexion. More recently, they have been coming out with some more like eyeshadows and things like that, but they don't have like a mascara. They don't have liners. They don't have, they do have lip glosses right now, but not always. They have some limited edition glosses right now. But for the most part, what you see from Becca is complexion. So they have a lot of different primers. They have a lot of different foundations. They have their highlighters, their bronzers, their blushes. It's all focused around complexion. One of my least favorite things from them is definitely their blurring powders. Again, I don't have them on me, so I'm going to insert photos here, but they have the soft light blurring powder, which is got a yellowy golden undertone. That's the one that I personally own, and it's too dark on me. It's supposed to be a translucent setting powder, and I think it would be if you have a medium to deep skin tone, but on my skin tone, when I try to use this, it just looks dark and patchy on me. So I haven't decluttered mine because I'm waiting until the summer to see if maybe when I have a little bit of a base tan, because I'm very fair right now, maybe I can get it to work, but if not, I'm gonna need to get rid of it. It is $38, and I think it's beautiful on medium skin tones. I used it on some medium skin tone clients when I worked there, and I thought it looked beautiful, but this is probably the only thing in their collection where I could say their shade selection is horrible, because they just have the golden one, which is the one I own, and then they have one that is literally pink. So if you have a neutral or warm undertone, which I have a neutral undertone, this pink is gonna look really weird on you. If you have a very cool undertone, you might be able to work, you know, make it work, but I don't even know in that situation if you could, to be very honest. I had a girl that I worked with who had a very fair, cool undertone, and it still looked really pink on her skin. So I'm not quite sure what skin tone this is best for, because I think it's just a little bit too pink to be used as a all over the face powder, unless you want your skin to have a pinkish hue. I don't know. Maybe as a blush on a very fair skin tone, I'm really not sure. I just thought the shades on this particular powder I think are very strange. Okay, one of my other least favorite products from their collection is their Ultimate Coverage Concealer. It comes in a little pot. It actually looks just like this, but it has a brown lid instead of this kind of rose gold lid. The thing about it is it actually has the same consistency as this. It's very, very thick and sticky, which I don't mind too much for the under eye brightener because I only use a tiny bit and I only need it in one little spot. And it does stay put underneath my concealer because it's kind of tacky. But for a concealer, I don't think you want a thick and sticky concealer for underneath your eyes. It's gonna really accentuate any fine lines and wrinkles. It's gonna be very difficult to blend. It makes it harder to work with because you're trying to take just a little bit and then spread it out, and it's sticky and tacky. I don't know, it's just not my favorite. I think there's a lot of better concealers out there, so that is not my preference, that particular concealer. That's pretty much it for my least favorite products. Now there's a lot of products from their line that I feel like are kind of okay. They fall right in the middle. All of their foundations, I've tried, I've owned 2 of them, but I have tried a sample of the 3rd one. So I did own the Aqua Luminous foundation, which I ended up decluttering. It was just not enough coverage for me, and the coloring was weird on my skin tone for the one that I had purchased, and then the pump kept breaking. It had one of those dropper pumps which kept breaking on me. So that I thought it was okay. It depends on your preference. If you like a very light to medium coverage, you might like that particular foundation. They also have their Ever Matte foundation, which I have tried a sample of. Again, I think that foundation is really good if you have oily skin. I think you'll really like it if your skin is very oily. If you're not oily, even if you're combo skin like I am, I think it's a little bit too drying. mattifying, so only go for that foundation if you really feel like you need a very mattifying foundation. And then the third foundation they have is their Ultimate Coverage Foundation, which I do own currently. I still find that one to be very drying. It's very, very full coverage, very, very thick full coverage. So as of right now, I'm kind of still on the fence with that product as well. I need to try it more. I'm waiting till the summer when my skin is more oily to see if I can make it work then. But right now my skin is a little more dry because we're just heading out of winter and I have some dry patches still. So for me, currently, it is not working with my skin. So I'm gonna wait and see if it works better when my skin is a little bit more oily. All right, so everything that I did not mention is because it falls right in the middle for me as far as their products. Now I want to kind of talk about the brand as a whole and my thoughts on the brand. So as I mentioned, this brand really kind of took off when they did their collaboration with Jaclyn Hill. I feel like they really found their niche in the makeup industry, which was really complexion and highlighters in particular. Everybody knows Becca for their highlighters, and I think their highlighters are beautiful, and I think their shade selection is great there. I think it was really smart of them to kind of play that up. I do think that they went a little too far with the whole champagne pop thing though. You know, it was originally supposed to be limited edition, and I know that they did not expect it to be as big as it was. So I can understand why they decided to make it permanent once they figured out that so many people wanted the product. But then they came out with the champagne pop palette, which I do own and I think is beautiful, but then that went away for a while and then it came back, and then they had their champagne pop cream version and a liquid version, and they had the champagne pop split thing with the split pan of a blush, and I mean, it just was like a little bit too much, you know? So I do appreciate that they realized how popular it was and brought it back. I think that was actually a good decision. I think a lot of people were really upset that they missed out on it, so I think that was smart. But I think that they took it a little bit too far. Like I've already briefly mentioned, I think that they are one of the leaders in the industry as far as shade selection. I think that they are very good with their shade selection. Let's just give an example here. For their Ultimate Coverage Foundation, they have 20 shades. Now, that's half the shades of like Rihanna's Fenty line, but their shades are very diverse. So they were one of the brands that I would go to if I had a client with porcelain fair skin come in and need something. I had a match there. Or if I had a client come in with a very deep complexion, I usually could find a match for them as well. So they don't cover every skin undertone too well. I feel like they definitely lean a little bit more on the yellow side. So if you have more of a warm undertone, you're more likely to find a match with them. But at least they cover the spectrum. One thing that I've noticed they are really getting into is this whole limited edition thing. Just like with the champagne pop thing, I feel like they overdo it. They're always coming out with a new limited edition palette, and as soon as one goes away, a new one comes out. So they had the Jaclyn Hill one, they had one with Chrissy Teigen, right now they have the Ocean Jewels one. Before that it was some Aspen thing or something like that. They're always coming out with these limited edition products that they always say it's limited quantity, but just for example, when I was working at Sephora, we were selling the Chrissy Teigen palette, and it wasn't selling too great. We didn't have a whole lot of people coming in to buy that palette. So we had it on its gondola with the brand. We had to fake it out on a tower, so we had it on a tower. We also put it on a table. We had it everywhere because we were trying to get people to buy it. And then they came out with something else that took the place on the gondola, on Becca's gondola for the palette. So we had to pull the palette and have it in the drawer, and there was tons of them in our drawer, tons of them in the back stock room. So it's just like, I feel like they're kind of overdoing it, and people are over this whole limited edition thing in general, not just with Becca, but in general. I think when we see limited edition now, we're kind of like, ugh, I don't want it just because it says that, you know. I saw on Liv Loves Her Makeup, she had posted on her Instagram a photo of strawberries from her grocery store that said limited edition, and I'm like, you know, are we to that point now where everything is limited edition? What does that even mean? Limited edition strawberries? I don't know. But the whole limited edition thing, I feel like it's left a bad taste in the consumer's mouth, and I feel like brands would be smart to kind of move away from doing that. I know they were trying to play on the whole FOMO thing and get us all hyped up and trying to buy every new thing that hits the market before it goes away, and they missed their opportunity, but I feel like at this point people are just like, no, I don't want it. If I didn't want it, not thinking it was limited edition, I don't want it now just because you're telling me I can only get it for a certain amount of time. So I hope that they move away from doing so much limited edition. Maybe come out with a more, I'd really like to see them come out with like a permanent line of eyeshadow palettes instead of these that pop up for a little bit and then go away. And a lot of their palettes that I have seen will incorporate some of their like shimmering skin perfector colors into the eyeshadow palette. And I'd like to see them come up with some new colors, and not everything has to be shimmery or holographic or duochrome, because they've been doing a lot of that recently. While I know it's popular, I know it's a trend, I'd like to see them do something that's more permanent, something that's more, you know, that's gonna stay with their line a little bit longer. So, and that's not just following the current trend. The other thing I would really like to see from Becca, because they are constantly coming out with all these new products, I'd like to see them expand their line a little bit. I know complexion was their main focus when they first launched, but I feel like their products have really grown and they're doing really well in that category. I'd like to see them grow a little bit more. Come out with some mascaras, some liners, some lip glosses, some, I don't know, lipsticks, things like that. I think it'd be really fun to see. I think it'd be fun to see their brand grow and expand. So that is my overall thoughts on Becca. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure to leave those down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this full brand review today. I definitely have some more coming up soon. Leave me comments, let me know what you'd like to see next from me. I have already done Lancome, I have done Kat Von D and Benefit as well. Definitely Too Faced, Tarte, Marc Jacobs, all of those are on my list, so let me know what you guys want to see. And I hope you enjoyed watching this video today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.